Our coverage of the Sean Diddy Combs verdict continues now. Today, the jury convicted him on 2 counts, both connected to transportation for prostitution. They found him not guilty of racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. And we've learned this evening Combs will be held without bail until he is sentenced in October, but will receive 10 months credit for time served. Here now to talk about the case, defense attorney David Seltzer. Thanks so much for joining us, David. My first question, were you surprised that the judge denied bail, given this was a first conviction for Combs and he was acquitted of the more serious charges?
I am a little surprised the judge denied bail. I think there is a bail package that could be structured to secure his appearance in court and protect the community. But the judge sat through the trial and heard the evidence and believed the alternative, and we have to respect the court's ruling.
Let's talk about the verdict itself. Where did prosecutors fall short in proving their case on the sex trafficking and RICO charges versus the prostitution charges?
So you got to parse them out, because the sex trafficking and RICO are one bucket and the prostitution is another. So for the RICO and the sex trafficking, they just failed to meet their elements because there was no conspiracy, there was no enterprise, there was no for-profit business. You had Mr. Combs on trial by himself, and you had all the witnesses, all the state witnesses talking about how they consented to the actions. So the defense did a spectacular job using the government's case against them by not calling any witnesses and proving all the defense theories through the state evidence. And the government was unable to meet the burden. Now, what was proven was Mr. Combs is a bad actor. He's a terrible person when it comes to domestic violence, and for that, he should be punished. But those are state court crimes, not in federal court, and there is no mechanism to charge state court crimes in federal court.
Right.
When you turn to the prostitution charges, that was consented to. He moved people for purposes of prostitution or purposes of sex acts. So, but that was the minor charge, and on those charges, he's facing a nominal time.
Right. Do I hear you saying prosecutors overcharged in this case? Is it a situation where they took a hammer to swat a fly and sort of missed?
Absolutely. They used a bazooka, if you want to use a better analogy here. They charged him as a mobster. He's not a mobster. Okay. Now, I have the utmost respect for the victims in this case, and they should be getting the justice they need. But respectfully, these are, again, state crimes, and they missed the statute of limitations. There is no mechanism to charge domestic violence in federal court.
Right. You mentioned the sentencing. The 2 prostitution charges carry a max sentence of 20 years, but you and I both know Combs could get 0 years because the guidelines are so wide. What's your prediction from your experience about what his sentence will be and whether the 2 will be served consecutively or concurrently?
So the guidelines in and of themselves, without any enhancements or any factors that we don't know at this point, are about 21 to 27 months in federal prison. We already know he's going to get 10 to 12 months time in by the time the sentencing comes around. So the question is, will he be home for Christmas? I think there's a strong possibility, but it could go the other way, because if you listen to what the judge said today at the sentencing, at the bond hearing rather, the judge did state some harsh words that Mr. Combs is a danger, he is violent, he can't be trusted. So the judge could find a way to go above the guideline range and give him additional time. But in my opinion, based on my experiences, I do think he's looking at likely time served and home for Christmas.
That is incredible. Home for Christmas. Well, we know that the judge's discretion is huge when it comes to sentencing. Walk us through that as someone who has served as a prosecutor and a defense attorney. The judge really holds the cards at the end of the day when it comes to how much time is served.
Yes, but to a point, because anything above the guidelines triggers an appellate issue that the court can then be reviewed and could be returned. So generally what we see with judges is they usually stick within the guidelines or go below the guidelines. We do see above guideline sentences, but again, it triggers appellate issues, and I don't know that the judge is going to want to open that door in this type of situation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Attorney David Seltzer, thanks so much for the time and for your expertise.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.